Welcome to TradePending's You've Got More Leads Than Ever. Now What webinar. We've got special guest Joni. Hey, Joni, we'll give you the full intro here in just a minute. Hello.
Hi.
And as we move along here, as you'd expect, we will record this. We will share it out. Please use the Q&A button to ask questions as we go. We'll take them at any point that we can. We got a chat in here already to make sure. All right, so Cynthia can't hear anything. I don't know if that's on our side or not. So we'll have to see there. Keep working with your volume on your computer there, Cynthia. We'll see if that gets any better. All right. Heads up, not that anybody really cares too much, but we want to just announce it to the community here that we are changing our product names. As we grow, we get bigger, we're adding more products. We are naming the products to make them easier to remember and describe what they actually do. You can see what they are changing to here. You'll hear more about this. You'll start to see these changes ripple through our website, our documentation, our support team, everything here. So there you go, heads up. All right, enough about that. We've got Joni Stuker on with us today. Joni, please give us some background and then we'll just jump right into the content. How did you end up here today? How did you end up in automotive?
Oh my gosh. Okay, good. And I love it because you just showed the change ups, those slides. I was like trying to make a note to remember anything. It went by too fast.
It's okay.
It's all over my head. Hey, thank you for having me. How did I get in automotive? Well, at the end of the day, I needed a car. And back in the day, they gave you demos. And I don't know how, but someone said, you know what, you'd be really great at selling cars. I'm like, really? So that's what I did in Indianapolis, Indiana for approximately 2.5 years. And I'm really funny, but I was #1 in sales, not because I was good. It's just that I was, someone else is saying they can't hear anything. Sorry, Lindsay. So it wasn't that I was good. I'm just extremely competitive. But at the end of the day, I had been selling for about a year. And the dealer principal came out of the showroom that night and he said, hey, Joni, you're going to training tomorrow. And I said, well, what did I do wrong? As if it was punishment. So I went to training, but it really changed my life. I learned about prospecting. And so I'm very excited to be here. And I'll tell you the reason I'm on this. Well, first off, I reached out to you. But one of my clients, I've been a consultant now for 36 years. And we run our own BDC team as well. And one of my clients is a client of TradePending. And the lead volume is off the hook. I mean, we get so many leads we're responding to. And really because, again, and I think all of us have gone through training sessions and you kind of wonder if the consultant's actually ever really done the job. So it's really awesome because I spend so much of my time responding to these leads. And so I really perfected out, like, what's the best way to respond, how to get the highest return as far as showroom visits, referrals, and lead generation. So I reached out to you and just said, hey, let me help you and help you. Yeah. So that's why I'm here. So 36 years is a very long time, my friend.
It is. And so we're going to take all that 36 years of knowledge and distill it down into 3 bullet points and like 26 more minutes. So there you go.
I got it.
We're going to cover everything here.
Everything. And it'll be really clear. Yeah. So at least we'll go through the snippets. At the end of the day, I have had the opportunity to train across the world, which is really interesting because no matter what language, we're all really the same people with the same goals. In today's market, though, the consumer is extremely concerned about items such, what is my trade worth and do you have the product? So it's important to write out the chute. Like I've always said, your initial approach is going to make or break you. If you're too assertive, you're going to lose. But also when they come out and ask you things like, hey, what's my trade worth? Please don't go to things right away, like trying to work out it, like the figures online. That's silly. That's just an opportunity. So when someone asks me right out the chute, hey, what's my trade worth? There's 2 different ways to go. One, you can say, you know what, never more than today, which is true. Okay. The other thing I always say is, hey, what's my trade worth? When's the last time we had an opportunity to appraise it?
Right.
So, and because those are 2 different ways. And then guess what happens? You take control, which is ginormous in my book. So we went through and I wrote out an outbound scripting. And I know this sounds really anal, but it's very important. When you make an outbound call, and let's say we're going to call TradePending lead, the first 3 steps are always the same. And I guarantee everybody on this training session probably does it reverse from what I'm going to teach, unfortunately. So if I was going to pick up the phone and call you, Matthew, the first thing I would do is obviously dial the phone. And then when Matthew says hello, I identify and make sure I've got Matthew. So I'd say, is this Matthew or may I speak to Matthew? Cool. Step number 2, what do you think it would be, Matthew?
Oh, put me on the spot here. Thanks for requesting to know how much your car is worth.
Okay. Step number 2, Ron. And that's what we always do. I'm so sorry. I'll never having her back.
I
All
just
right,
fell
so
right
step-
into that trap, didn't I?
You did, my friend, because everybody doesn't. Step number 2 is to get the green light. In other words, find out if that person's busy before you introduce who you are and where you're calling from. Why? Think about it. Most people are not exactly excited to talk to car people. They're not. I don't like that, but it's the truth. So it's an uncomfortable conversation. What I want you to do is I want a person to tell you if they're busy or not because of who's calling, but because of what's going on in front of them. So listen to the difference. Ring, ring. Hi, may I speak to Matt? Yes. Hey, Matt, did I catch you at a bad time? Matt, do you have a moment to speak? Matt's going to respond about what's going on in front of him. Now I'll touch base on the guarded people. I know you, but let's go with the person that says what? They'll go, sure, this is fine. Who's calling? That's an open person. When you do it the way you did, Matt, hey, ring, ring. Is this Matt? Yeah. Hey, Matt, this is Joni calling from ABC Ford. Did I catch you at a bad time? They're going to go, ABC Ford, do you want to talk about cars? Yes, bad. So you get shot out before you can get the chance to speak. So 1, 2, 3 in that order is extremely important. You'll get the chance to speak to more people. Now, when you get a guarded person, like I could see your face, Matthew, you're thinking, right. I would say, who is this? I know, I saw that guarded look. So it's okay. When I get a guarded person, I go, hey, Matt, did I catch you at a bad time? Matt says, well, who's calling? You can feel the guard go up, right? So that's when I say, well, this is Joni. Do you have a moment to speak? Now, right when it sounds like he knows me, right? Joni, oh, this is fine. Like Joni doesn't sound too harmful, but I don't say Joni from ABC Ford. So I just say, this is Joni. Do you have a moment to speak? Super guarded people say, well, Joni from where? And I have to tell you, you have to tell where you're from. You can't go, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you until you tell me if you're free. So then you have to spill it. But again, try really hard. I know it sounds little, but it's very important. The only way you win is to have the access to more conversations. So don't shoot yourself in the foot right at the beginning. So the reason I'm calling is what? Thank you for reaching out to us regarding the value of your current 2015 Equinox, whatever that product is. And then in the word track, which Matt's going to share with you, but I created it's called a third-party process. It's called independent buyer process. So write that down, independent buyer process. The biggest reason is this: none of your competition will use those word tracks, and you have got to set yourself apart from the other dealers. You cannot be saying the same thing, which is KBB, Carvana, CarMax, because everything's all swirled together. So we utilize a word track that I created, and I can tell you, our appointment setting rates over 70%, our show rates over 65% when you use it. Those are huge stats. So your goal right out the chute is, hey, thank you for reaching out to us regarding the value of your 2015 Equinox. You know what, today we use independent buyer process for appraisals as they offer the most money in the market, bottom line, right? For your benefit, they do work by appointment and it only takes 30 minutes. There's your hook. Right away, a person's going to go, right. So you go to the next step, which is take control. You know, I have time available today at 3 or 4. What's best for you? Something that blew my mind away is that consumers that are working, like I work full time, I have all these things going on, but the minute that I use that hook and they might get more money, I find them being able to take time off or stop by on the way after work to make this a priority. Again,
so what do you mean by independent buyer process?
Okay, so independent buyer process is this here. If you ever worked in a dealership, let's say that I'm a Ford dealer, and Matt, you bring in your Toyota Corolla for an appraisal. I'm going to determine whatever's the best value for my store for what we feel it's worth. But at the end of the day, a smart manager is also going to shop that vehicle with potential other people that he knows, perhaps someone that has a Toyota dealership. And so it's an independent process that takes another step, but every manager that's really worth their weight does it. So we just put a label on it to what? To distinguish ourselves apart from other stores. So that is why we use an independent buyer process. Doesn't mean it's a person that's standing there. I had this dealer once put, oh my gosh, he had a jacket made and put independent buyer on the back. I go, you know, your face is the same. So even though the jacket says a different name, they're going to recognize you.
He just wanted to establish his own personal independence.
I know. I thought wave the flag. So independent buyer process, and it works. Number one, as I said, it separates you from the other people. You have to have something different to say, and you need something that's effective to say. Right away, go for an appointment, choice of 2, and always make sure your appointments are for the same day. Same day. Don't go to, oh my gosh, don't go for choices of, are you available today, Friday, or is the weekend better? Too many choices. We humans are very simple. We can only handle 2. And the more immediate, the better for you. Always note that if you have a conversation and you make an appointment within 72 hours of that conversation, your show ratio is going to be extremely strong. Could be up to 80%. Every time you pass another day, your show ratio drops 10%. So understand that if a person pushes back, which is on the script, If a person comes back after that and says, I really just want to get a ballpark. I hear that a million times. What's a ballpark on my vehicle? And I love it because you can see so many people that go to like KBB and they put in stats on their car and they always put, it's excellent. Pristine condition, 1 out of 10, it's 11. It's like, okay, that's your impression. That's what you're hoping for. But if a person pushes back without making an appointment, I'm going to go to the whole thing about, I really want a ballpark. The best way to get a gauge on a vehicle today is to go to kbb.com. Please note, the independent buyer appraisals consistently offer more than KBB. So once you receive that ballpark figure, which will be available to come in today at 2 or 4. Again, I don't know whether you're in a BDC, you're an internet salesperson, you're a salesperson, whatever your title is at the end of the day, your whole purpose of this is to be an appointment center, is to generate that opportunity into someone that commits, who then shows up and we have something to work with. So push again to KBB, go back for your appointment choice. Now I know because I deal with people all over all the time. And then I get the guy that's still hesitant. He's like, no, I'm too busy. I'm not going to come in, that kind of guy. Don't give up. Okay. Never give up, never surrender. So when the guy says, no, too busy for that. My life's so busy. Okay, great. Then use my favorite technique in the world, which is household prospecting. Household prospecting is 3 questions. Question 1, how many drivers are in your household? Question 2, how many vehicles? And question 3, of all the drivers in your household, who is most likely to be in the market next? In other words, don't assume that the person you're talking to that asked about the trade value is the strongest lead. And also, don't try to decipher it yourself. I always say we get much further in life if we let the consumer tell us where and who, than us trying to tell them. Think about our image. That's car people, right? Car people, we're known as what? We're pushy. We're always trying to tell people, you need to buy a car. It's time for you to buy. Buying cars, especially today, it's not logical, it's emotional. So if someone is hesitant to make that appointment, and I've tried twice, I'm going to back off and I'm going to say, don't worry about it. That's okay. Tell me, how many drivers are in your household? In the United States of America, there's an average of 2. In Hawaii, there's an average of 5 because of all the multi-generation living in the same home because you can't afford it. So much for the Hawaiian beach. So at the end of the day, household prospect, because the odds are a lead will be determined. The consumer will say, how many drivers? 2. How many vehicles? 2. Of the 2 of you that drive, who is most likely going to buy next? And they may say, we're thinking about getting a car for our son. All you're doing is peeling back the layers. So don't just handle this trade pending. What's my trade worth? Try to give them a ballpark. Don't do that. You have so much more you can grow from with this opportunity. I'm really big on the fact too, that if I've got nothing, if there's no selling opportunity, I'm still going to keep my hat on and say, it sounds like your driving needs are taken care of. What are your current service needs? When's the last time you had an oil change? Because I'm smart enough to do what? I multitask. I'm not just going to look at them as if, well, if you don't want to buy, I'll call you in a few months and try to sell you again. No, maybe you need service because it's another chance to what? Matthew, meet the person in the dealership, chance to engage, chance to develop a relationship. And then I always end, I love the word always, I always end every conversation by asking for referrals. I guarantee you 99% of everybody with us today doesn't do that. And I don't know why, because we're kind of brought up in this thing about first you have to focus on, buying their car, selling them, then later prospect. No. And I have to tell you, with social media, everything changed dramatically. Old school meant that first you sold people, then you prospected. Today, if Matthew, you were thinking about shopping for a car, looking for something, you would be on Instagram, you'd be on Facebook, you would be engaging with your circle of influence. So all we're saying is this, work really smart. We work really hard. We need to work smarter. At the end of the day, end every positive conversation by asking them who else you could help. When you do that, 1/3 of your appointments every day will come from self-generation. I have to tell you, Matt, a lot of people, if you're working in dealerships today, it's frustrating because we get tired of the same people grinding us about price, grinding us about availability. So when I hear that, I always tell them, what you need to do is create a better opportunity for yourself. And those are people that haven't visited 12 to 14 websites. Those are people that haven't called 6 stores. And that's from referrals. And my favorite thing, guess what? Your competition will never do it. And I know we touched on it before, but the worst thing you hear when you say, hey, who else may I help? is the word no. No one. And that shouldn't scare us very much because we hear it every single day. We're in sales. But referral generation is everything. Keep in mind, again, a third of that. And think how empowering. Get a trade pending, you make an appointment, they're going to come in, you ask for a referral, they give you their brother, you call the brother. This is all about creating your own pipeline, which to me is the reason why I love trade pending, because I can't believe the opportunities. But it's all about, as I said, how do you spin it? Because if your directory approach is just about their one car and their one trade, you're never going to get the distance that you could.
Wonderful.
So,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank
So
you.
that's a lot. This is kind of under this big topic of juicing lead conversion, right? You've given us a ton of tips and thoughts and advice here. If we shift gears a little bit and talk about growing customer loyalty here, that was a topic that you and I spent a bit talking through. So how are you thinking about growing customer loyalty?
Okay. Wow. I hate to go cliches, but it's true. Talk is cheap. We always say we care. Look at every email template. Everything's like, we care about you. Like, really? So the thing in our industry is that we were all brought to think that manufacturers rate, say, their purchase experience and loyalty based upon being completely satisfied. The problem is that completely satisfied consumers will shop competition. They'll shop all the time. A loyal person stays with you. So really the whole crux is, how do you build loyalty? And it's not by just e-blasting. It's not by sending out your random auto text every once in a while. It is laborious as it sounds. It is making a live conversation every 90 days. Note that. You have to speak live to a person 4 times a year. Sounds like a lot for people, but it's true. And that conversation, which by the way, I didn't send you, but I'm happy to. I call it a wellness contact. And I've got a really great script. And it's not just one of those cheesy, it's been a year since you bought your car, happy anniversary. No, but it's a wellness script. And it's important because people want to feel like they can rely upon a person at a dealership for sales, service, or parts. And I want people to be that individual. But again, loyalty is not something that is just something that happens. It's something that you earn. Which I wanted to bring up something, which is, how do you get people to engage with you, which is huge. So let's say that you get a trade pending lead and you reach out right away and you call and text and email and they're silent. So there's no response. Be very careful. The next messages post 24 hours should not be mentioning their trade. In other words, you've got to get more into just a general messaging, because otherwise, if they decided not to trade, they're not going to engage with you. So it's important to start removing that prior context and just coming out the chute with, I love this question, and I put it in a text all the time. Here at ABC Ford, we're in strong need of used vehicles. If we can offer you enough money, would you sell us your car? And I have to tell you, and it's interesting too, it's like, would you sell your car? Text yes, why, or no, and or any household vehicle. And funny, Matt, right now you get people going, Joni, I've got this '02 out back, only 387,000 miles. What's it worth? I'm thinking $5 is what I mean right now, like right out this year, because it's a little unrealistic. But again, you're looking for someone to engage with you, right? So big thing is what? It's sometimes threatening to come into a dealership because they're potentially afraid to be sold. But when we come out the chute and say, hey, you know what, if we can offer enough money, could we give money to you by buying your car? I get a lot of high engagement from that. Okay. Another thing, and people ask me all the time, like, how long do you stay in touch? Like, how often do you make attempts? When do you, quote, give up? I hate to say it. It's definitely my personality. I never give up. I always say, not unless they're dead, DEAD, do I dead them. But I do change messaging. In other words, if after 90 days of effort, and I'm not getting response back, I'm going to start changing my message to things about service. I'm going to start talking about maybe oil change specials or something we can do on the service side to start getting an engagement, because I'm going to assume that there isn't anything there, or perhaps they already sold their vehicle someplace else. Again, and I know it's fast messaging on it, but household prospecting is huge for consumers for the people attending to know that that's going to be a lifeline to get themselves out of tunnel visioning and only talking about the one car, the one trade, and what's happening, because that might dead air them. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Here's a really great point too. When a person makes an appointment with you, let's say you're in CRM and you don't see them as a prior sold customer, but you're engaging back and forth. And Matthew, you decide that you're going to have the independent buyer appraisal happen. It's extremely important that that the salesperson, the BDC rep, whomever's engaging, that they remind them upon arrival at the dealership is to let the person who greets them know they're there for the VIP appraisal. It's important so that we don't, left hand, right hand each other. Make sure that if you're in BDC, that the sales force understands what you're saying. Because I've had people walk in going, hi, I'm here for the independent buyer appraisal. And the salespeople go, what is that? So we want to be careful. And the best advice is whatever the consumer says when they arrive is to say, great, we were expecting you. I mean, whatever it is, just write and bring them to a manager, or however your process works to get that in motion. But again, it works. So if the consumer has not bought before, a really great trial close to ask. So I'm following up a trade pending lead. I make an appointment. They're going to come in later today at 4:15. Before I move into referral, I'm going to say, Matthew, today at 4:15, would this be your first purchase from our dealership? Great trial close. Matthew says, yes. What did Matthew just say? Matthew said, I'm buying a car. Okay. Hey, Matthew, today at 4:15, would this be your first purchase from our dealership? Matthew says, no, that's a repeat buyer. If Matthew shows, he's going to close at 75 to 80%. Huge. Hey, Matthew, today at 4:15, would this be your first purchase from our dealership? Matthew says, I didn't say I'm buying. I'm really just looking for the trade appraisal. I would say, great. No better place to receive that than here at our dealership. We'll look forward to seeing you at 4:15. The whole thing about communication is to not just get that, like I say, like a skipping stone to grab an appointment. But the reality is that I can have a really solid appointment. Because if that's a conversation and he says, whoa, I didn't say I'm going to buy, then I would let my floor team know. If I'm in BDC, I'd let my management team know that we need a really good, well-versed salesperson, because this person's not walking in the door going, hi, I'm here to buy today.
Yeah.
Right.
So talk us through, you mentioned, reaching out every 90 days, touching somebody 4 times a year. What is that? How are you changing that messaging, and what are you changing it to?
Okay. The greatest concern, if you have a vehicle, is always going to be the maintenance of it. And in today, especially, most service departments are backed up and are booking service out 2 weeks, a month. So it can get rather precarious. So that's why I find the every 90 days even more important, because it's really about not only the checkup to let them know that we actually care and we're there for them, see if anything's changed in their driving needs, meaning are they driving more? If they travel more, are they traveling less? What's going on? But actually sound like we care. And then I always go into things about, what, their next service may not be needed for 4 more months. In fact, I'm a turnkey vendor with a major manufacturer, and they don't need service. I mean, it's terrible. Cars are so great. Like, see you next year, but then the demand on the service team is to keep the revenue. It was really in conflict. And then what happens is that if the consumer suddenly needs service and they can't get in, now you're going to do what? Potentially lose that base. So part of that 90-day outreach is to engage and to make sure that even if it's 4 months from now, but I already have them committed to that service visit to put it on the books, because quite frankly, I probably can't accommodate it now, but I need to make sure that it's off of their concern list. And as I said, people want to feel that when they walk, into a dealership, it's not who am I going to get, what happened to the last guy, or that even before I walk in or even call our outreach, I have somebody there that's my advocate.
Right.
And as I said, for people that are salespeople or internet people, my gosh, if you do yourself a favor by on those 90-day, outreach, those 90-day wellness calls, I know it may sound minor, but every time you speak with someone, you should ask them to have a pen handy or their tablet handy and to write down your name and number. Even though I've talked to you before, even though I've spoken with you a few months ago, it is the repetitiveness of having them record your contact information that makes sure that when that consumer needs you, they'll remember. They don't have to try and find your number. They'll know it right here. I do that as well, because why? Because if they ever have somebody that's interested in buying a car or shopping for a car and needing service, I want them to remember me and to send them to me and not just to the store.
Right. And so I want to be clear here. So what you're coaching people on is, if you are in BDC, if you are in internet, you're in sales, you're saying like, it's okay to reach out and talk about service, right? Because you're trying to maintain that personal connection, and that's the best angle, because that seems a little counterintuitive. Normally, like there can be other teams, other people that do that.
Wow. Okay. So think about how frustrated consumers are right now. Let's say that you're a selling lead, right? And you decide not to buy, and I'm the sales BDC person or sales internet, whatever my title. So I'm talking sales, all of a sudden cold, nothing there. Now you have a choice. That salesperson traditionally is going to do what? They're going to mark you dead or future or
Moving
lost.
on.
Moving on. So guess what? There goes that reputation again. What are we known for? All we care about is what? Got to get the money. Money's not there. Go away, Matthew. And we try and find another Matthew. What I'm saying is, my gosh, take the blinders down. Be someone that can take care of their automotive needs. Whether or not you can book the service doesn't matter. You can always at least do what? Find out if they have any needs, right? Somehow determine with your service team that you can at least not transfer the call to service, please. Because then what might happen? Then it goes into voicemail again. Then everyone gets frustrated because I can't reach a human. And so to work smart means I can change my hat. I don't know anything about service, which is why I can book an appointment. Because part of the thing about service is not diagnosing. It's the reason why I'm great at phone ups, because I never know inventory. I don't know anything. I just know questions to ask. So at the end of the day, it's to me, it's extremely effective that you're able to talk both sides of the equation. And if they need service, yeah, it does.
All right, we're starting to run a little bit low on time. If anybody in the audience has questions, if you've come up against tough objections repeatedly, they're like, hey, how WWJD, what would Joni do? Right? Throw those in the chat, throw those in the Q&A there, and we can tackle those. If we don't have time to get to them, if they're not any, you can email us as well. We'll have our contact information. While we're doing that, I'll go ahead and share the screen again. So please check out Joni's site, Owner Connect, and so we did mention that she had some scripts. We've got those in here. We've got links to these as well. They're posted on the TradePending knowledge base. Hop in there, check those out. And one of the items in there that you shared with us was the core objection handling. And just talk us through a few of those, if you don't mind, Joni. We've got a couple more minutes.
Okay, great. There are traditionally about 4 of the same objections that you'll hear. So if a consumer decides, in other words, that's an initial trade pending lead opportunity, and all of a sudden it goes cold. And that core objection is things like, we decided to hold off, right? We decided we're not going to move forward. One of the worst things people respond, which is unfortunately the traditional, which is usually why, okay, what changed? Which I have to tell you, that is pressure, and people hate pressure. So the smartest thing to do is to go opposite of what a consumer thinks you'd say. So if someone says, hey, I decided I'm going to hold off for a year or 2 or whatever it is, the best thing you can say is that's okay. The minute I respond like that, it makes you feel like what? Chill out, no pressure. And I go immediately to what? Household prospecting. Tell me how many drivers in the household, because why? Maybe the lead shifted. Maybe Matthew was the hot lead, but guess what? He went home and he had dinner with his wife and the kids, and in conversation, the wife said, you know what? Bob's going to college in the fall. We really should get Bob a car before we move into upgrading ourselves. So the lead moved. By saying we decided to hold off and saying why, what changed, usually makes someone feel confrontation and shuts them down.
Yeah. All right. A wonderful question coming in. I'm not paying over MSRP. How do you resolve that?
I love that. Here's the best way to respond to that. Due to the, and this is sincere, due to the inflated value of trades, I tend to find any kind of over MSRP being offset by that increased value of your trade. So in other words, that new car may be more, but your used car, what? That value is so high, it can knock off the 2. Most importantly, remember this line: money not being a factor. Have you found a vehicle you really want to own? Because we're so caught up in what's it going to cost? Do you have anything over MSRP? What's happening? I go, what? Do you even know what you want? Because I mean, I don't know about you, but if I decide to buy something, I put a dollar amount on it. Darn it, though, I go in and I fall in love with it and I spend more. So we really have to heighten our sales ability right now more than ever. When someone immediately says, hey, are you charging over MSRP? Or I heard this yesterday, this guy goes, I'd be crazy to come up. I said, well, we're looking for crazy people. No, but I said, at the end of the day, I go, let's just take money over here for a moment, okay? Yeah. Because I want you to make a smart decision. But at the end of the day, if the new car price is higher, but listen to the fact, your pre-owned vehicle is off the chart value. Those things can offset each other. So before we worry about how much something is, let's make sure you fall in love with it. And remember too, that you don't have product availability. So you got to get out of those old word tracks about how soon do you want to come in and test drive? I go, test drive what? Air? So the smartest thing you do is to come in and review your product options. And that is important. And when someone gets stuck on things like, I only want this and you don't have that, I always say to them, hey, you're looking for something so specific. In today's world, you may have to wait a year or 2 years. Are you willing to wait 2 years? And if that person says yes, then just understand he or she's not your hottest lead.
Right.
But smart people today do what? they come in and potentially deposit and look at product options.
All right, we are running out of time, so we'll wrap things up here. Please, if you're not yet, follow TradePending on social media. You get all sorts of wonderful things, and sometimes we give away free swag on there too.
Yay.
And speaking of free swag, if you don't have one of these yet, it's the TradePending mascot. It's our wobbly bird. There's a story behind it. You can find it on our website. Hit this URL. It is case sensitive, bit.ly/peepbird, and you can get your own wobbly bird. We will mail that thing to you, and you will be the most popular person in your office, in your dealership.
Oh my gosh, yeah, all day long.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. So with that, we are going to wrap up. We've got contact information here for both of us. Reach out to us any questions. If there's things in the chat and Q&A that we haven't got to yet, we'll follow up with you afterwards. And Joni, thank you again for being here today and being with us. Much appreciated.
I really appreciate it too. And I hope I helped everybody.
I think so. All right. Take care. We'll see everybody
Cool.
soon.
Mission accomplished.
Right.
See you soon. Thank you,
All right,
Matt.
bye.
Bye.